people like us, we are meant to run, right? We are meant for the challenge. We are meant for the excitement. We are meant for the growth. We want that adrenaline rush, right? We want the growth, the expansion. That's what gets us excited. And what I realized is I sort of got to a point where life just got comfortable. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. You know what time it is. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. It's time for Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. Hope you are doing awesome. Depending on when you are listening to this, this is going to drop sometime in September, which means we are finishing Q3 of another year. How crazy is that? I don't know about you, but time seems to fly, which means we must be having a lot of fun here. But remember, always time to reset, regroup. I do have a very important topic I want to hit on this podcast, but I just want to take a few minutes of just checking in. Where are you with executing your vision? Where are you with executing your goals, with hitting your targets for the year? Because the reality is, if we don't have a clear vision and we don't have targets and goals that push us to a next level, we're going to stay stuck. We're going to stay in the status quo with the same old, same old. And to me, what makes life so exciting, especially in the world of cybersecurity, where there's so much going on, my friends, so much changes, so much happening, so much new tech, so many new things to learn, that it's easy to just get comfortable. It's easy to get to a cruising altitude and just stay there for a long period of time. So I just want to ask, if you just go in and look at your income, your title, the things that you have, the car that you drive, the house that you live in, the friends that you hang out with, the things that you do on a daily basis, how much has that changed in the last quarter, the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years, the last 10 years? Because what I find happens in most people's lives, and it happened to me, I got caught in, I'm actually right now in the process of doing a pretty massive transformation. If you're watching my social, you'll probably see a little of that happening where I'm sort of trying to figure some things out. But what I realized is I sat there and looked at my life and started realizing that I wasn't as excited as I used to be. And things were just sort of, I was hitting my targets. I was doing what I needed to do, right? Everything from the outside in looked great, right? People look at me and go, Eric, you have such an amazing life, right? I have wonderful places to live, beautiful cars, great family. I mean, everything just looked wonderful, but I just wasn't feeling it. Like I almost felt like I was a little stuck or a little numb. And what I realized is, when I sort of look back, things have been pretty much the same for me for the last couple of years. If you look at the income, what I've been doing, the title, the house, the cars, it sort of has been the same. I haven't had any really massive growth or transformation for several years. And that's okay, right? We sort of go through these different levels. But what I realized is people like us, we are meant to run, right? We are meant for the challenge. We are meant for the excitement. We are meant for the growth. We want that adrenaline rush, right? We want the growth, the expansion. That's what gets us excited. And what I realized is I sort of got to a point where life just got comfortable. Like life just got pretty easy for me. And yeah, I'm going through the motions. I'm having a good time, but it was just easy and simple. But what I realized is that was good for a season, but now I'm ready to run again. I'm ready to go out and start running. They use the analogy of a lion, right? If you go to a lion in a zoo, you can tell how long it's been in captivity. Because a lion, when it's first put in captivity, it still has fire in its eyes, right? You can see it's antsy, like it's pacing and going. It does not like discomfort, even though it's super safe. In captivity in a zoo, there's almost zero risk of being shot by a hunter or a poacher. There's almost zero shot of being attacked by another animal. There's almost zero chance of starving to death. There's almost zero chance of any harm happening to you. You have medical care, right? In the jungle, there's no doctors, right? A lion, if it gets injured, it can't walk into a hospital in the jungle, right? It doesn't work that way. And there's no guaranteed meals. There's no guaranteed survival. Every day is a challenge, excitement. But in the zoo in captivity, it's safe and it's comfortable. And you notice over time, the longer a lion is in captivity, the more comfortable it gets. And it starts losing that fire and losing that desire. And then it just sort of accepts the easy life. But guess what? That's not what lions were meant to do. Lions were meant to hunt. Lions were meant to attack. Lions were meant to fight. Lions were meant to have that excitement. And guess what? We are all lions. Humans are not meant to be put in captivity. We're not meant to be put in cages. Yet, many of us have. And like me, they're actually self-imposed cages, right? They were cages because society teaches us all these norms. Oh, you should make a certain amount, have X amount of this and that. And you get to a point where all of our needs are taken care of. I'm at a point right now in my life where I'm like that lion in the zoo. All of my needs are taken care of, right? I don't worry about if I'm going to eat today, right? I don't worry about somebody attacking me, right? I don't worry about rent or where I'm going to sleep or any of those things. All of my basic needs are completely taken care of for the foreseeable future. I'm in a really good spot, just like the lion at the zoo. However, just like the lion at the zoo, that's not what we were meant as humans. That's why you see so many people just walking around, almost zombies, frustrated because they've put themselves in a cage. And when all of our needs get met, we get stuck because there's a lesson in life that many of us haven't been taught. And that's getting our needs met, survival. That was only meant to be a portion of our lives. That was not meant to live our whole lives in survival mode. Survival mode was when we were born. Our primary objective was surviving. Our primary objective of our parents and teachers was to teach us beliefs and rules and things that we started to hold true to get us to survive. But then what was supposed to happen is somewhere in our 20s or 30s, once all of our needs were met, we were supposed to go into the second level of life called thriving. And thriving is cool because in thriving, we no longer care about needs. Needs are taken care of. Needs were done in level 1, surviving. We have mastered survival. We have passed level 1. All of our needs are met. We're not worried about needs. Now we get to an interesting place, which is strange for many of us, including me, where when we get to thriving, it's now about this new cool word, my friends. What do you want? It's now about wants, not needs. And for many of us, depending on how we were brought up, this can be a little difficult. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling right now. I travel a lot. I have made a decision a couple years ago. I only travel first class, but it's still on commercial. And you still have to wait in line. You still have to get to airports. You still have to deal with all that stuff. And to be honest with you, I'm at a point in my life, I'm done. I want a private jet. And because I'm the E-Dog, I just don't want a private jet. I want a G6, a Gulfstream 600. And if you know those, it is a $70 million aircraft. Of course, yes, there's really nice $2 million and $5 million aircrafts, but no, the E-Dog, of course, wants what he wants. I want a Gulfstream. I've seen them when I was younger. I've looked at them. I want a Gulfstream. And it's funny because a part of me is like, dude, that is stupid. That is ridiculous to want a $70 million aircraft. You should just be happy with a small aircraft. Or I grew up always flying coach. So the fact that I fly first class, pay for it. I don't do upgrades, right, because that's risky. I buy first class tickets, so guaranteed first. I should be happy with that, right? I should be thrilled with that. But then there's another part of me of like, wait, if we are really limitless and we all can have as much abundance as we want, why can't we want what we want? Why can't we desire what we desire? And the reality is, the only thing that is currently holding me back from that G6 is me. Because I am struggling with it. Once I get to the point where I am 100% convinced that I deserve a G6, and I picture myself every day in that G6 flying it, and it becomes my new reality internally, it will be manifested externally. I have the power to create a reality in which I fly around in a G6, but I have to be the one willing to create it. And this is the crazy part of the game of life. We are the creators of our own destiny. The only thing stopping us from having our G6s, from having the life of our dreams, is we don't believe we deserve it. We don't believe we have it. And therefore, what we do is I sit there in the morning and I go through my desires, my affirmations, and I picture myself on the G6, getting on the G6, getting greeted, sitting down, doing that, and boom, seed gets put in the ground. Seed starts watering. Then 2 or 3 days later, I allow myself to go, I don't really need that. That's a little crazy. That's a little silly, blah, blah, blah. And I pull the seed out of the ground. And then a couple days later, I put it back in. Well, I have a question for you. If you're a farmer and that's how you go about, you put a seed in the ground, 3 days later, you pull it out. 3 days later, you put it back in. Are you ever going to grow the crop that you want? Of course not. So the lesson here is we have to be willing to realize that there's no judgment. We can have whatever we want. When we finish level 1 needs and we get to level 2 thriving, we can have whatever we want. We just have to convince ourselves we deserve it. And once we do and once we own it, then the world is open to us and we can have anything we want. I just felt compelled to share that with you. Just so you know, before every one of my podcasts, I always do a little meditation where I just sort of connect with the audience and say, what do they need to hear? And I wasn't planning on going off for 13 minutes on that topic, but guess what? That's where we went. So I hope that reached out to somebody. I hope that urged somebody to say, it's okay. I give you permission. Give yourself permission to have whatever you want, because the reality is you deserve it. Now, the main topic for today was another topic that triggers a lot of people. I don't know why, but when I say we are in World War III, World War III has started, and it is actively attacking us, our families, and our businesses, but we are completely and totally unaware, which makes us victims to this war. When I bring this up, People get so upset. You're over-exaggerating. You're blah, 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 blah. Wait. Why does this bother you? I ask executives all this time, why does speaking the truth that we are in a World War III bothers you? And the first thing they go is, because it's not true. Okay, let's back up. What is a war? Sorry, I'm laughing. I have my screen set up here, and I just realized I put World III. You got to sometimes have fun, right? So it should say World War III, not World War III. But hey, we're gonna have fun. I guess my team could edit it out, but we're having too much fun here. Let's just roll with it. But it should say World War III. So I say that, and they go, "Well, it's not true." Okay, what's a war? Just give me the definition of a war. Well, a war is when one group of people are actively and vigilantly attacking another group of people with a goal to take over, control, or cause harm. Are we good with that definition? Yes. Okay. Isn't that happening in cyber? Isn't that exactly what's happening in cyber? Look at the ransomware, look at the extortion, look at the attacks. You have groups of people, well-organized groups of individuals that are targeting and attacking other people with a key goal and key objective. How is that not a war? How are we not at war in cyberspace? And they sort of look at me and go, okay, we'll give that to you. Great. What is the world? That means that it's not just in a regional area, but it's happening across the entire globe. Aren't cyber attacks happening all across the globe? We're seeing attacks happen in Russia, China, US, North America, South America, Far East, Middle East, all over the place. So isn't the world currently involved in these attacks? Yes. So why isn't this World War III? Because we've had World War I and World War II, so we've convinced ourselves there's a war, and we've convinced ourselves the world is involved. So why isn't this World War III? Why isn't this a cyber war? Because it absolutely is. Now here's the crazy part. If you're the attacker, if you're the adversary, and you are attacking and going after somebody, you are declaring war on another group of people. What is the best tactical advantage you have? Them being unaware. So if I can attack you and you're not willing to accept that you're being attacked and you're not willing to accept that we're in a war, it gives the attacker the advantage. It's like if I'm trying to rob your house and you are completely unaware that I'm trying to rob you, advantage me. Because if you are completely unaware that I'm trying to cause harm, if you are completely unaware that I'm trying to negatively impact you and your family, you're not going to do anything. You might even leave the door unlocked, might not turn on the security alarm system, might not do normal things. But I have a question. If you get a warning from the police that your neighborhood is being robbed, and particularly they saw people outside your house targeting you, and you are now fully aware that somebody is targeting you and trying to rob your house, what are you going to do? Put up more defensive measures. You're going to make it harder for them. You're going to lock your door. You might even get a guard dog. You might get a weapon. You might protect yourself. You might put you're going to be much more aware and on guard and make it much more difficult. So the more aware your adversary is, the harder it is to attack. So the fact that most people won't accept, won't acknowledge, or don't even realize we're in a world war means it's giving the attacker a huge advantage. Because now they can come after you because you're not even trying to defend yourself. You're not even trying to be on defensive measures because you're like, oh, there's no target, there's no issue. So to me, we need to accept this. So one of your jobs as a chief information security officer is, whether it's popular or not, you want to do two things. One, you want to make sure your executives realize that they're under attack, that our company, our organization is under attack. We are being targeted and we are being attacked because we are in an active war. There are entities out there right now that are focused on causing harm to our organization. What always raises awareness is the truth. And the truth is this. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in the boardroom at a Fortune 50 company, and they were getting a little lax on security, and they were under the attitude, oh, Eric, this attack stuff isn't really a big deal. No one's trying to target us. No one's trying to come after us. Not really a big deal. Not really a big problem. And I did two things to raise their awareness. One, I went through their logs and I said, do you realize you're being attacked and targeted 2,700 times a day? I can go in and show it to you, but you're being attacked and targeted. So this idea that it's not real, that it's not happening. Also, in the last 2 months, you've had 2 successful attacks that you've completely missed. And your servers have actually been compromised, but because in a war, you don't actively cause visible harm. So very often companies are targeted and compromised for months or years before there's anything visible. So if you're not looking because you don't think you're under attack, you're actually serving and making it that much easier for the adversary. So my question to you is this. If your organization was actually attacked, if your organization was actually compromised, how would you know? How would you be aware? Are you that focused on what's happening that you would be able to answer that question? And yes, many companies can, some companies can't, right? So this is where we're at. We're just because there's nothing visible happening doesn't mean we're not being attacked. It doesn't mean there's not a war. It just means they haven't done anything yet that you have visibly seen to negatively impact the company. But that doesn't mean we're not in a war, and that doesn't mean we're not being attacked. The other thing that always raises the awareness with executives is I say, do you realize that there's a group of people, about 25 people, in a room that's about 3,000 square foot. They have offices, they have conference rooms, they have war rooms, they have all the different things you would expect in a company. It's an active running company. And their sole objective for the next 6 months is to attack, break into your company, and steal critical information and critical data without being detected to give your adversary a competitive advantage. And there's just silence. And they sort of look at me and I go, that's true. The probability of that being true is very, very high. Because here's the reality. Most of the education that executives have gotten on cybersecurity, cyber threats, cyber war is outdated. Many of them are still reading an old playbook from 15 to 20 years ago where they're believing it's these script kiddies. Remember script kiddies, teenagers after school, defacing websites, the I love you virus, the Melissa virus, right? Many executives are still under a playbook that these are malicious teenagers that are up to no good, that are just trying to get attention by doing visible defacement attacks on your organization. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, teenagers after school breaking in and defacing your website isn't the best. I don't love it. It's not great. But does it really negatively hurt your business and your company? No. A little embarrassment. A couple people might poke some fun at you, but it really didn't negatively hurt you, your business, your customers. So if you're under the assumption that it's just, some curious teenagers playing around doing some visible things, you're going to not be prepared because that's not the reality. That has shifted about 5 to 7 years ago. A major shift, and today it's well organized governments and criminal elements that are directly targeting your company, trying to cause harm by stealing, modifying, or destroying critical information to either make money through extortion or ransom, or to give your competitors an economic advantage. And most CISOs haven't had that conversation with their executives. Most CISOs have not had that heart-to-heart conversation that, listen, this is real. I get comments from folks going, Eric, what do you do in cases where executives or vice presidents or managers go, Eric, cyber's not really a threat. We haven't had any real attacks. We haven't had any real damage. We haven't had any real impact. It's not really that big a concern that's out there. We don't need to put as much energy and effort, and we don't really need to pay attention to it. What do you do in those situations? Simple. Educate with factual data. Go into your organization and look at the number of attempted attacks. Look at how many times you are being attacked on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And I can guarantee you that your executives think it's much smaller than it is. I did this experiment. I talk with a lot of executives, and I sit at a lot of CEO roundtables. And I sat with a bunch of CEOs, and I asked them, how many attacks do you think your organization has on a regular basis? And they thought about it, and almost all the answers were single digits. 3, 7, 8. Now, there was one CEO that I work with a lot, highly respect, because they're very analytical, right? All their answers are very well thought out. They're actually one of the ones that are the definition of let data drive decisions and not emotions, right? They are a data-driven CEO, and they are brilliant. And they told me 8. Very specific number. And I said, I said, let me ask you, why did you pick 8? And they said, Eric, I thought about it. If there were more than 8 attacks a week, I consider that significant. So if it got into double digits, 10 or 12, I consider that significant. And if it was significant, my CISOs would have told me about it. And because my security team has never told me, they've never came to me and they never gave me any information that we're being attacked, it has to be a very low number. So it has to be 8 or less. Otherwise, they would have told me. And after they said that, I was like, interesting. And I tell that to my CISOs. Do you realize that your CEO would expect, if the number of attacks were significant, double digits or higher, that they would have expected you to tell them? And the fact that you're not telling them is giving them the message it's not significant. So now when I go in, and I went back and told that CEO, do you realize you have about 4,200 attacks a week? They called an emergency meeting with the security team. And their question was, how come I'm not aware of this? And here's the problem. The security team didn't have a good answer. Why aren't we educating our executives? Why aren't we telling them how many attempted attacks we have on a weekly basis? That is important, crucial operational data that's needed to run a business, and we need to communicate that to them. We have gotten to this weird point in security where it's like the CISOs and the security team, they don't think the executives care. They don't think the executives are concerned about security, and the reason is you have been feeding them way too technical information for way too long that they've lost interest. They don't care about false positives and false negatives. They don't care about retuning SIMs. They don't even care what a SIM is. But they do care about high-level operational data that impacts the business. Attempted attacks is a critical operational piece of data that every CISO should be reporting to their executive team on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and a quarterly basis. So the reality is, whether you want to accept or not that we're in a cyber war, we need to start doing a better job of educating our executives. We need to let them know how real the threat is. We need to brief them on what the threat looks like, what is happening, and most importantly, we have to give them useful data. We're not giving them hundreds of pieces of data. I'm not giving them every piece of data from every SIM on the planet, but one critical data point. How many attempted attacks does our organization have on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis? And that's a critical piece of information every CISO should be giving to their executive team. And through education and awareness, we can start to win this war. But the reality is, we can't win a war if our executives are not even aware that we're in a war.